Hi, this is Sean, and welcome to another lesson on chord movement. In this one, I'd like to share some things that I learned from Dr. Barry Harris about moving just a couple of notes, in this case the top two notes on a chord, to give some really beautiful tension release sounds. If this is your first time here, then please do hit the like, subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you know when I upload new content, and YouTube spreads it to more people as well. It really helps the channel grow. So with that, I'm ready to begin. So moving the top two notes, what does it actually mean? Well, there are four main movement scales from Barry Harris, and this one's about the major six diminished scale. So don't worry if you don't know what it is, I'm going to explain it now, and if that's too easy for you, you can skip to this point in the video or use the chapter markers below. Well, first of all, what is the major six diminished scale? How to do it? Let's see. If we have the C major scale and we add an extra A flat, then we end up with C, D, E, F, G, the extra A flat, A, B, and C. So this scale, if you see how I've separated it into two chords, it gives you a C6, the blue ones, and it gives you a D diminished, the green ones. And actually, you keep getting, this is what happens if you play alternate notes, you get that C6. If you play alternate notes from the second degree, you get a D diminished. And if you keep doing that all the way up the scale, you keep getting inversions of C6, D diminished, C6, D diminished, C6, D diminished, all the way up the scale. So that's your scale of chords, okay? Now, I do have other lessons on that, which I'll link below if you want to see it in more detail, but that's the top and bottom of it, okay? So you've got to practice that. So next up, applications. Well, we're going to be applying these on a major chord. It could be a major 6 or a major 7th. And also on minor 7ths, which correspond. What does that mean? Well, if we take C major 6 and invert it down, we get A minor 7. We actually use the movements from C major 6 diminished, which is the scale that we went over briefly today, on a C major or on an A minor 7th, and that's what we'll be doing. So moving top two notes is going to mean taking the C6, let's go back to that slide where we had the scale. You can see I've got my blue chord there, the C6. If I take the top two notes, the G and the A, and I want to move those up, then the G is going to move to A flat, and the A is going to move up to B. Okay, so we'll end up with, instead of this, we'll end up with this, which may sound like a very unsettled chord, and yes it is, but it gives movements like, which is great. That's the kind of thing we're looking at with those sorts of moves, okay? So those applications are useful on majors, as we said. It could be a major 6 or it could be a major 7. And on minor 7 as well, that corresponds. So the minor 7 that corresponds to C6, if you invert down, you'll find A minor 7th has exactly the same notes. C, E, G, A. The A goes to the bottom, it's A minor 7th, but it's the same chord. So these movements can apply in both those places, at least. So moving top two notes is like that, okay? Now, if I invert the chord, C6 in first inversion, now the top two notes from the diminished are there, because remember, we're dealing with this diminished. So actually, that would be the inversion equivalent. So I like to start these movements sometimes so we get a tension release sound, so we begin on the move. For example, instead of going C6, then a movement and back, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But I like to begin on that tension move and give it back. That's C6 in root position. Now in first inversion, it would begin like this. Those are two diminished notes, giving back to major 6 notes. Okay, so what can we do with that kind of information? Well, we can look at introductions or turnarounds. Okay, so in an introduction, if we have a 1, 6, 2, 5, C major 7, could be any major, could be major 6 or major 7, which is what I haven't specified. A minor 7, D minor 7, G7. We can make those movements on the first two chords, remember, because C6 is also A minor 7. So we can do stuff like this. Let's see. Maybe I'll start in first inversion, so the C6 up here with its two diminished notes on the C major 7. Okay, so that's going to be my move for C major. Now when I go to A minor 7, that's the initial move we had, remember, where we have the two diminished notes there. Now this time I've really got to go with that diminished note in the left hand, otherwise I'm going to get too much of a clash for me. I'm happier going with it, okay? Now, that A flat could come down in the left, could go in contrary motion as well, so the left goes up while the right goes down. All this stuff is okay. All these possibilities are helpful, and they're all there for the exploring. So now we have something like... Let's imagine it's a bit more ballady. Let's see. And then I won't do anything special on these two chords for now. Okay, it could be more swingy as well. So just by moving those couple of notes at the top on a C6 in root position and giving them back, and then doing first inversion, you've got all kinds of movements happening now. That's the beauty of this system. Now, it could have been all kinds of other things. It could have been those two notes moving up like that. Okay, that's all right as well. Maybe I'll fill in this extra major note in the middle. So in other words, these two notes become three notes. That would be okay as well. That would be like that. Quite like that, actually. So the possibilities are endless if we keep exploring different ways to do these things. I think one thing that people do, which in my opinion is wrong, is go straight to application without spending enough time on just exploring the scales up and down in different keys. Okay, next up, some further considerations. Well, as I said, there are always new ways to explore this kind of thing. So some further considerations could be learning the F major 6 diminished, which works with D minor 7. Why? Because this is F6, and if we invert down, we get D minor 7. Just like when we had C6 and we inverted down, we got A minor 7. So if we put F6 with a G diminished, and keep alternating F6 with a G diminished, we get a scale of chords. And so let's say that you're back to that 1-6-2-5 we were playing before. Now you've got something to do on the 2, on the D minor 7. Because let's do the same thing. So here's F6. This is the diminished in the scale. So these are going to be the top two notes. If I take these top two notes up in the F6, they're going to go there, right? So let's see if we can do something with that. Here's the C major again. Here's the A minor 7. Here's the D minor 7. That was slightly different, wasn't it? Let me do it. Let me do it the normal way. Yep, so there's all kinds of material in there. You can probably see that you could be exploring it in different ways. Drop 2 is more advanced, so I wouldn't do that if you're just getting into movement. But if you're more experienced, then this is something you could explore. And all we do with drop 2 is, if this was the first movement, then we take the second from the top, not from the bottom. So this is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the B comes down the octave and comes out of the top. We don't want it at the top anymore. So if this used to be the move, then it now becomes this. So really spacious, really pretty stuff when you drop 2. Now on the other one, this C6 that we moved before, this is the drop 2. This is the second from the top, so it's going to come into the left hand, like that. So now the whole move on at least the C major and the A minor 7 part would be like this. And then we've got the D minor 7 to G7. Let's see if we can do it on the F6 as well. So here's the second from the top, so it's going to come into the left hand. Great, okay, so now let's try all of it. It's alright, by the way, for me it's alright to put the... If I put the C down the bottom, this is still a drop 2. It doesn't invalidate it in any way, so sometimes I'll do that. Okay, that could be a ballad introduction, or... of a swing introduction. And that's how you move just 2 notes and get all kinds of possibilities on chord progressions. I hope you enjoyed that, and if you did, perhaps you'll consider becoming a Jazz Skills member, where I have hundreds of lessons for pianists of all levels, whether you're just getting started or you're playing chord movements and more advanced considerations. So thanks for watching, and see you on the next one. Bye for now.